Will you please give your very best welcome to Mrs. Shufflewick?
Thank heaven for little boys. For little boys get bigger every day. Thank heaven. For little boys, they grow up in the most delightful ways. Those little cocks, so helpless and appealing, one day will flash and send you crashing through the ceiling. Thank heaven for little boys. Thank heaven for them all, no matter what, no matter who. Without them, what would bigger boys do? Thank heaven. Thank heaven. Thank heaven for little boys. Sorry. I must say how sorry. Excuse me. That's better. Hello, my lovelies.
Hello.
Answering isn't absolutely necessary. I only said hello, my love. This is a metaphor. Sort of as something to come on with. And if you've got something to come on with, it's nice to be able to come on, isn't it? It doesn't matter what you come on with or who you come on to, as long as one comes on. Anyway, I should like to introduce myself for those of you who haven't had the time, the pleasure, or possibly the money. Shufflewick is the name, star of stage, screen, radio, labour exchange, dope parties, and part-time topless barmaid in a frog nightgown in a Pond Road. And I must say, before I sort of start doing anything at all tonight, that I am not really up to it. I haven't been feeling myself. I went to my doctor's the other evening, Dr. McKenkie, and I said, I haven't been feeling myself lately. He said, good, it shows your taste has improved. Well, it all started the week before last. Yes, I remember it well. I was in the kitchen bagging up some manure. And the door opened, so it might have been over there, and in walked the old man, persistently drunk. And he shoved his thing in my hand. He said, put that in the oven. He said, it's a crusty pie. He said, I'll have it later. Fucking tortoise. Anyway, he went and lay down on the couch. Pulled a piece of sacking over the orange box and he laid on it. And when he woke up, he came downstairs and he said, what's that smelling? I said, your dinner. He said, burnt again. He said, I'm going to get you a grill. So I said, you what? He said, you can have one of those grillers in the kitchen. I said, I don't want a fucking great furry animal running around my kitchen. He said, oh yes, he said, we're going to have all mod combs. He said, we're having a telephone put in the hall. I said, I've got a fucking big red box in the hall here. Never get by. Anyway, I think it was then that it came over me. Or something came over me. And I thought, well, I'd better go to the doctor's. So I went along in the evening. I always go in the evening because his hands are warmer by then. And I was sitting in the insulting room. And it was quite nice. It's very warm in there. It's got one of these convector heaters, sort of really belts out the heat. Nice polished coffee table with all these magazines on Vogue, Good Housekeeping. Some very interesting magazines. Very sad about that Titanic, wasn't it? And I looked beside me, there was this woman person sitting beside me, knitting, and eating thalidomide tablets. I said, what on earth are you doing? She said, I'm knitting baby clothes. I said, don't you know what those tablets do to you? She said, I can't knit arms anyway. But she couldn't. She'd had terrible trouble. She'd been on the old ups the daisy bit, you know. I said to her, I said, why have you come here tonight to the doctor's? Well, she said, it's the drink. She could hardly hold the needles. I said, oh. I said, how long's it been like that? Oh, she said, months. Oh, I was going to ask the doctor to give you something to stop you. No, she said, I want something to stop me spilling it. Well, I looked further along the line and there was an old boy there, about 97. It was hardly worth him going home. He did look ill. He looked so pale and drawn. Anyway, the buzzer rang and I just got up to go in, and this young Irish lady sitting on the other side of me, she said, I'm first. So I said, right. So I sat down again. Well, she went in, she left the door slightly ajar. Now, I'm not really nosy cow, but I sort of sidled up and listened at the side of the door. I thought, well, I'll see, because it's a very good bedside manner, McKenkie. It's very good. And he said, good morning. She said, good morning. I thought, that's pleasant. And he said, take all your clothes off and lay on the couch. Well, it was feeling all over. And I was looking and getting quite carried away. He was feeling all round the lower region. He said, do you know what I'm doing? Yes, doctor. She said, you're looking for a hernia. And he started on the upper deck. He was feeling all around there. He said, do you know what I'm doing now? Yes, doctor. She said, you're looking for lumps. He didn't know more. He dropped his trousers and he was on her. Like a ferret up a drain pipe. Bashing away, he said to her, do you know what I'm doing now? She said, yes, doctor. You're getting VD, that's what I came to see about. Well, then it came to my turn. So I went in, and he said to me, he said, what's the trouble with, I said, well, it's my ears. He said, eh? I said, it's my ears. He said, well, take all your clothes off. I thought, aye. This is where he gets struck off the medical register. He said, come over here. He said, stand by the window and stick out your tongue. So I said, what's that for? He said, I don't like the people who live across the road. Well, he went all over me with his little knob, you know, and then he said to me, he said, now I'm going to do something to you now, he said, which will probably have never had done before. I thought, He said, I'm going to draw the curtains as a precaution. So he put this thing on his head, and he came towards me with this long silver thing, a torch, I think it was. Either that or he's got a damn good home life. And he said to me, now, I want you to cross your legs. He said, and look to one side. Sure, I did. And he got this bloody great rubber hammer. And he gave my knee such a clout. But you know your leg's supposed to shoot up, isn't it? My flapper fell off. He said to me, well, he said, I've given you a thorough examination. He said, I can't really tell what's the matter. He said, I think it must be the drink. And he said, well, don't worry, doctor, I'll come back when you're sober. So I don't think he was very pleased with that. So I left, and I came out of there, and it was still quite early, so I thought, well, I'll get something for the old man for his dinner. Spoiled little pig. So I went down to my butcher's. Very nice butcher. Never puts his meat up. Very good. And I looked at his display, and I walked inside the shop, and I said to him, Mr. Butcher, because I knew him, thank you.
What's up with this one?
I don't know. This one will do. I come prepared.
This one might taste better than that one.
Oh, I'm always prepared. I've got something else just in case I don't get anything later. Hello, Mr. Butcher, I said, Swan.
It's all over your head.
Excuse me, I must drink this before it spills, because I spilled one in 1964. And I still wake up with a screaming at that. Hello, Mr. Three butchers I have. Hello, Mr. Butcher, I said, I rather fancy something nice for the old man's supper. He said, right. I said, how much is that delightful leg of lamb you have hanging in the window? He said, £17.50. I said, fuck me. More in hope than in anger. I said, how much? He said, £17 flesh. God, I said, it's expensive. He said, well, it's English. I said, I know, but I want to eat it, not talk to it. So he said to me, well, he said, I tell you what I've got. He said, I've got some chipolatas that are slightly off. And he said, I'll seal them in a bag. He said, and if you whip out the back door quick, you can have them for £1.90. So I thought that was little do him. He's always so pissed he can never tell what he's got anyway. So I came out and I thought to myself, well, I'll walk down memory lane, as I call it, on my way home, because it was sort of a thing that I always remember when I was a child. My mother, bless her soul. Mind you, she was a very good mother too. I can always remember, as a very young child, she told me that when I was a baby, she once took me up to see the Tower of London. And we were on this bus, and the conductor came up to her and said, Madam, you've got such an ugly baby. Would you please get it off the bus? It's disturbing the other passengers. And she was devastated. She was shocked. And she got off the bus, and it came over her. she came, she was in a terrible state. Well, she sat down outside this pub, and this man came along and he said, what on earth's the matter? She said, I've been insulted. She said, I've been terribly insulted. He said, well, you sit there. He said, I'll get you something to calm your nerves. So he went in the pub and he came out 10 minutes later with a brandy. He said, here, he said, suck that. He said, that'll calm you down. He said, here's a banana for your monkey. Well, I grew up, as you can see, into a much more prettier child. And I could always remember when I was about 7 years old, walking down the high street with my mother. And I remember it as though it was yesterday. And I turned to her, we walked past this shop. And it was an optician's. And they had these great big glasses hanging up outside. And I said, oh, Mummy, look at those. They must belong to a giant. She said, shut up, you stupid child. She said, there's no such thing as giants. So we walked on a bit further and we came across this tremendous big sign saying, cobblers to the Queen. And a great big boot hanging outside the street. And I said, oh, Mummy, look at that. I said, that big boot. I said, that must belong to a giant. She said, I've told you once, I've told you twice. I won't tell you a second time. There's no such thing as giants. So we walked along a bit further and we came to this pawnbroker's. And I looked up and she looked at me and she said, you open your fucking mouth, she said. Mind you, she was very, very kind to me. She brought me up well. Me and my sister Ethel. Ethel, because she wouldn't know my sister Ethel. She doesn't live in this part of the country. She lives in Peckham. I don't know if any of you ever visited Peckham, but she lives in one of those prefabricated houses put up for 6 months after the Second World War. And she lives there along with her cat and her husband and a few other bits and pieces that she doesn't really need, but she keeps them around. And I went over to visit her. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever visited any of these prefabricated houses. They're quite nice. You wouldn't know them from the real thing when you're inside. Got pictures on the wall. She keeps a good home. The sideboard's always polished. There's always a bottle of methylated if you fancy it, you know. It's very, very good. But the walls are very thin. Shocking. Well, one Christmas she opened her oven to check her turkey. And the fellow next door was dipping his bread in her gravy. And one afternoon she was poking the fire and she knocked a fella outside off his bike. She never did get the poker back. Anyway, I thought, well, I'll go and see her, so I saw her and she said to me, she said, would you like to stay the night, dear? So I thought, well, I got nothing better to do. So I slept roughly. We do sleep rough round there. The straw hasn't been changed for years, but anyway, I slept. Anyway, I woke up in the morning quite early. I was sitting up in bed mending a puncture. And she came in the room and she said to me, Flo? I said, yes. She said, I'm ever so sorry. She said, I can't give you any breakfast because the council's cut off my water. I said, don't worry about me, dear. I said, a bit of toast to do me fine. Well, she came back 10 minutes later with a little tray with 3 slices of lightly burnt toast and 2 boiled eggs. Now I looked at those eggs and I thought to myself, well, if the council had cut off her water, what did she boil those eggs in? That I didn't ask for a poached. Mind you, she's always been the same. She's always been the same. Even when we were children, she was shocking. She's never let me have my own way. So anyway, when I left here, I thought to myself, well, on my way home, I'll pop in and have myself a little glass of noggins, a glass of Christmas cake. So I went into this, my local, which you wouldn't know, called a cock and comfort. It's got a lot more comfort than it's got other things. But it's quite nice, and the landlord's quite a nice chap too. He smiles when he throws you out, you know what I mean? He's a very, very pleasant fellow. And so I was sitting there minding my own business, sort of, just whiling away the hours until it was time to go home to the Chamber of Horrors. And the door opened, so it might have been over there, and in walked this sailor chappie. And I think he was in the Navy myself. And I think his parents must have been French, because he kissed me on both cheeks. And I was doing my shoelace up at the time. And he said to me, would you like something to chuck down your gizzard? And I thought, what a gentleman. I said, well, I'm rather partial to a large port. So he gave me a photograph of the Southampton dock. And he did no more. He pulled out these much thumbed photographs. And I was shocked. I don't know, quite frankly, how they get into those positions. I couldn't. I've never been asked. Anyway, I looked at them for about 45 minutes and I gave them to him back. I said, it's not really the sort of thing that you show to a lady when you're in an establishment like this. So he said, no dear. He said, you're right. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, you and I will spend the evening together. So I said, right. So he plied me with beverages. I know we had 2 rum and blackcurrants, 4 pints of lager and lime, 2 sweet sherries, a port and lemon. I remember that going down and coming back. And he would make me have this advocate. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but quite frankly, I don't know what they do with the cats afterwards. But it was vile. Made me, well, I felt ill. I had to relieve myself and go to the toilet. And as I got up to leave, he stuffed this piece of paper down my bra and said, if I'm not around tomorrow, have a drink on me. So I thought, lovely. Like a £8 note, could be a £5. Fucking tea bag. When I came out, that cheeky chappie had lined up 3 Drambuie shandies, 2 brown and miles and a fish cake each. And I think that fish cake upset me. I was ill. Well, we left. Well, we were asked to leave, actually. I had a fellow on each arm. I can't remember who had my legs. I know when we got outside in the gloom of the night, I don't know what I did to upset him. I know I did mention the price of plums, but he did no more. He lunged towards me. Now I thought, I'm not going to be attacked outside a public house at pin 45. I'm going to make a shoot-off. So I looked to one side and I saw this side street, which I thought that would be my escape route. So I shot up there, and it turned out to be a blind alley. So there I was with my back to the wall, with a leg in each dustbin, and John West Salmonton where it mattered most. I thought, right, now let him make the first move. And he did. He came right to, well, I had a blackout. I hope to have another one out tomorrow night. And when I came to, I found myself lying prostitute in the gutter. And I looked up and I saw a pair of navy blue trousers. And I thought, it's either a copper or a matelot. Either way I've had it. It turned out it was a policeman. And he shot his torch right down, well, I think it was his torch. If it wasn't, it's the first time I've seen one of them with a bulb in the end. And he said to me, what are you doing down there? And he said, I'm making a steak and kidney pudding. We both laughed at that. Except him. He said, would you like to come and see the place where I work? Well, he didn't use those words, but I gather that's what he meant. So I walked along beside him, which I considered was the best position as we were handcuffed together. But when they got me to this prison place, they chucked me in this cell with a bale of straw, copy of the capital Gay, a cup of tea, 2 lumps of sugar and no spoon. They do that to aggravate. They know, being a woman, you've got all the stirring. So next morning, at the crack of dawn, the door opened straight. Could well have been over there. And in came this usher chappie and he said, "Up to number 1 court." Because I'm not fucking playing tennis this morning. But when I got up there they were all sober. There's a judge sitting halfway up the wallpaper. He said, "I'm going to deal with you later." I said, "Right." The first case up was 3 ladies of the night. 3 ladies of horizontal refreshment. And he said, "Before I pass sentence on you, I would like you to tell me what you ladies do during daytime." So the first one said, "Me lord, if it pleases you, I'm a sock tucker." He said, "I beg your pardon." She said, "I'm a sock tucker." He said, "What's that when it's out?" "Well," she said, "I work in the sock factory and the socks come along on a conveyor belt, and when 2 reach me, I take them off, put a piece of cardboard in, turn them over, pump it into a polythene bag, and that makes me a sock tucker." He said to the next one, "What do you do?" She said, "I help her." So he said to the third one, "What do you do?" She said, "I do what you thought the first 2 did." Next chap up, little Irish fellow, 5'4", could just see above the bar. The judge said to the usher, "What's this man charged with?" The usher said, "Me lord, he's charged with having sexual intercourse with an animal." "Disgusting," he said. "What sort of animal was it?" "It was a goat, Your Honour." "A goat? 6 months." Next fella up, he said, "What's this man charged with?" He said, "Acting the goat, Your Honour." Well, then it came to my turn. I got up there and I did my own defence. I did the Gettysburg Address. 3 choruses of Bill Bailey, "Won't you please come home?" "And sheep shall safely graze." And I think I did very well, because that judge got 6 months. And so I came out and I thought, well, I'll just sort of revive myself before I have to go and face the fireworks at home. So and I don't know if any of you have ever been into any of these pubs up in the West End. Opposite the Old Bailey, there are pubs that would blow your eyes out. Really, really posh, you know, really sort of head in the air business. So I went in there, mate. No one's going to know me, so I can act the part when I try. So I stood at the bar and I was sipping a gin and lemon, which I thought would go down much better than Guinness, as it's sort of lunchtime and they were a bit sort of uppy-divey. And I'm doing that and sort of picking out the little peanuts and crunching them merrily on my plate. And the door opened again, so it might have been over there, and in walked this chappie, all very posh, very city gents, pinstripe suit, rolled umbrella, briefcase, bowler hat. And he came and stood right beside me, so he might have been sort of just there, and he looked at this barmaid, very West End barmaid, black velvet curls, head in the air. "Yes." That's West End for yes. "Yes." He said, "I'll have half bitter, please." And particularly asked for the feather. She said, "I beg your pardon." He said, "I'll have half bitter, please, and it's particularly nasty weather." "Oh," she said, "I misconstrued what you said." Well, when she went to get it, the little Irishman standing beside him turned around and said, I heard what you said to that woman, Mr. Man. You said tickle your ass with a feather." Well, I must admit, I like to start the day with a little joke. It gets me going when I go back to the office. He said, "Oh, thank you, sir. I remember that. Tickle your ass with a feather, particularly nasty feather. Tickle your ass with a feather, particularly nasty feather." So he's having a few jars and he's practicing away there. Tickle your ass with a feather, tickle your ass with a tickle your ass with a feather. A few more scotches. Tickle your ass with a feather, tickle your ass, tickle your ass. And he staggers back up to the bar and there's the same barmaid there. Yes, he said. You should let half of Guinness, please. And stick a feather up your ass. She said, I beg your pardon. She said, it's fucking pissing down. I looked away. I couldn't bear to look. And I did the worst thing, because as I looked away, there was this other Irishman beside me, and we both looked at the same time into the fireplace, where this Dalmatian dog was laid lying, licking its private parts. He looked at me and he said, I wish I could do that, missus. I said, well, give it a biscuit and it might let you. No, it wasn't really my cup of tea. I should have stayed with else. Of course, she's very good. If I don't see her, she writes. Actually, I've had a letter from her recently. I must read it. She writes a beautiful letter, my sister. My dear angel. She calls me that because I'm always up in the air harping about things. Why haven't you rotten, you Ritter? I am writing this letter very slow, as I know you can't read very fast. What about the weather? It was so windy last week, our chicken laid the same egg 3 times. As you know, it was your brother's birthday last week, so I bought him some new curtains for the front room. I also made a cake, but I couldn't find any silver balls to go on top. So I used some ball bearings from your old bike. The silly sod swallowed one, had a fit of coughing, farted and shot the cat. Our sister Louise has really come out of my other sister Louise. You wouldn't know her. Call her Lou for short. Everyone makes a convenience of her. My sister Louise has really come out of her shell lately. Last week she went up to Soho to join a key club, but they wouldn't let her in because she didn't have a key. So she's joined a country club. Cousin Ruby is in a bit of a state. She lost her virginity on the back seat of a number 9 bus. I have told her to go to Baker Street to see if anyone has handed it in. Yesterday I went to the beauty parlour in the High Street. When I told our Herbert I'd had my face lifted, he said, some bastards pitch anything. You won't know our house when you come round next time we've moved. I had a letter from the undertakers to say if we don't soon pay the next instalment on Aunt Aggie's funeral, up she comes. The Salvation Army were doing house calls collecting for the old people's home, so I gave them Grandad. Our next door neighbour was in a right old state last week. Her husband went down to the allotment to cut a cabbage for Sunday lunch, had a heart attack, dropped dead. I said to her, whatever did you do? She said, I had to open tin of peas. It was such a shame they'd only just come back from a week in Scunthorpe. I went to see him in the funeral parlour and he was as brown as a berry. His holiday must have done him the bowling. She's very good. She goes on to say, I went to my doctor's the other day. I told him I was getting terrible pains in my posterior. I had been recommended a home cure of cold tea leaves. So I bought myself a packet of horny mans. Shoved them up my khyber, but they didn't do any good. So I didn't mention it to the doctor. He told me to bend over, and he didn't say anything for 5 minutes. When I asked him if he could see anything, he said, yes, you're going on a long journey. He gave me some pills and told me to put 2 in my back passage every night. But as you know, dear, we haven't got a back passage. So I shoved them in the coal cellar. I left them there for a week, and for all the good they did, I might just as well have shoved them up the arse. Well, I must close now as I'm running out of ink. Sorry about the £5 I owe you, but I've already sealed the envelope. As always, your loving sister Ethel. Oh, she does write a good letter. Well, it's almost time for me to pop off, because the pills are wearing off. I'm not quite sure if I shall... No, I can't finish with the strip, because it's the underwear. It was all right at Easter, but I think it's probably gone a bit past it now. I really don't know what to do to sort of afford to buy more anyway. I did try to get a job actually. I went to local employment exchange only a few weeks ago. Don't they treat you like dirt? Oh, I sat there in this long line, all these people with bad heads. And someone shouted, "Shufflewick!" I walked up to the counter. And this woman person said, "Take a seat." Well, I was just going out the door with it, and she said, "Come back here." She said, "Sit down." She said, "I want to take down your particulars." I thought, bet she plays tennis. So she said to me, "What sort of employment have you had before?" So I said, I've been a coronation programme seller. So I've knitted goose covers for lighthouses. And milk yaks. She said, "Well, we haven't got many yaks," she said, "in Peckham Street." She said, "But so I tell you what we have got, we've got a job here for you, if you fancy it." She said, "There's a topless waitress in a fish and chip shop in Bermondsey." So I said, "Well, a few bob in for Christmas, I suppose." So I went to, it was horrible. Oh my God, it was this greasy Italian fellow. Grease everywhere. And I had to fry these chips topless. All the fat was splashing up. I had nipples where I'd never seen nipples before. And I thought, I'll never last this out. I thought, well, I'll stick it out till Saturday, get me money and call it a day. Anyway, all was going well until about 10:30 on Saturday night. We were closing at 11. And the door opened, so it might have been over there. And in walked this little snotty-nosed kid, about 7 years old, just the open bar. I said, "Here's a pack of chips." I said, "Young man, when you come into an establishment like this and you talk to a lady," I said, "you should use a little more decorum." So I said, "You come round here and I'll show you how it's done." So I made to come into the shop and I walked up to the counter and I said, "Excuse me, young man, do you think perchance I could purchase 18 pennyworth of your beautifully, delightfully fried chipped potatoes?" He said, "Fuck off." I said, "I beg your pardon?" He said, "Fuck off, you wouldn't serve me, I'm not serving you." So it just goes to show, if you have too many glasses of Christmas cake, that's what happens. Well, I'd like to leave you, if I may, in the capable hands of my band, the Unfrock Bishop on the piano here, and I'd like to finish off with a number that I had the pleasure of performing before the Prince of Wales and Duke of Edinburgh, Queen Elizabeth, and many other well-known London pubs. And it's a little thing, if you know the chorus, I'd be very grateful if you would join in, and it goes something like this.
Behind with the old Tom Living
Annie on the way. Off went the van with me own packed in it. I walked behind with me own coffin in it. I did it, that it, and I did it. I lost the van and don't know where to roam. Well, you can't trust a special like the old time copper when you can't find your way home. Thank you very much indeed. God bless you and good night.
Anyone, Mr. Lee Paris, come on Lee, take a bow. Mr. Lee Paris and his tribute to Mrs. Shufflewick. Lee Paris, yes. Brilliant. Don't forget Lee Taylor to choose the next Tuesday was a special night because there's Mr. Lee Paris, Mr. Dave Lynn and Mr. Tony Sinclair. They're doing a show side by sequence. That's next Tuesday evening through the back bar. Tomorrow night's a super night. Thursday